Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of GnWC Weekly. I'm the Duke, and I'm joined by my good buddy.
Ryback.
You're not my good buddy.
I'm hungry, dude.
Oh, you're hungry. I hear you. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I realize I have a little
That's
problem.
actually Larry.
Yeah,
I'm
whatever.
Duke. But yeah. What else you got?
I have a little problem.
Okay.
Simon's got a problem. And
Okay.
when Expa crashed, all the level ranges went back to default. So I have to fix that right now. I have to come up with a list of names again.
A list of names.
Like, I've just flat out run out of names to use.
Oh, like your opens.
Oh yeah, because I've been
your
mailing it
opening.
in for 3.5 months.
Your opening randomness.
Yeah. They used to be good, man.
They used to be really good.
Yeah. It's run its course, and I guess if
Maybe we should come up with something different. We could come up with something new.
Yeah, we could. I can just make, like random sounds. Be like, hey, I'm joined by. And then,
No, you don't need to do that.
No, I can sing. Oh, it's the big show. So I have. We can get right into this because there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's fill our game quota right now. I got something for you.
Go.
Yesterday, Marvel Heroes, the game you and I kind of had a little bonding over. That's
Not even kind of. That's where we met.
That's where we met.
Yeah.
And then, like, randomly, you just said, hey, who watches Monday Night Raw?
Wrestling.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
watches Monday Night Raw? It's like, anyone watch Raw? It's like, well, okay. So they had their quote-unquote biggest update ever yesterday. Duke, I can talk personally to you, but I want to try to put this globally to everyone else. And if you've watched me stream, you may have seen me play this game a couple times. I used to be really big into it, and it kind of grew into a fact. The fact is, the game's stale because of there being no content. And you can grind as much as you want for the good gear, and that could be fun because that's playing a video game. You know, you're playing a video game to accomplish stuff and to get stuff and get loot and stuff like that. That's part of a video game. But in the end, once you get all the stuff, there's like nothing to do. There's nowhere to progress. There's some end game, but as soon as you complete the goals of the end game, there's no reason to do it again. Blah blah blah. This patch, Duke, totally gutted the system of all the players, the heroes, the hero specs. It took away free movement, like you can't infinitely dash or teleport anymore. It works on a fixed range. There's a cooldown to it. There's a dodge mechanic implemented into it. Long story short, for the veteran players who've played this game and who've been overpowered and overgeared towards the content, they are now weaker. Things take longer to kill. They can't move freely about in any of the zones or instances as fast as they once could. Bosses take forever to kill, and you gotta dodge now and stuff like that. They've made this into a video game that takes time to play, to go through their content, to look at the stuff they've designed, to spend more times in places they've created and stuff like that. And that's all well and good. But here's my argument to that, Duke. We played the way we've played for over 3 years now. Now is the time they took to fix this. So we've played essentially in a broken state. And now they've made it, I guess, better in terms of it being a game and having like depth to it. But it's an illusion because the depth to it is just making stuff we've already did take longer. Have you considered checking it out?
Well, here's the thing. I've gotten to where, and I've tried to get into all kinds of different games, mobile games, all kinds of different genre over the past several years. And I always gravitate toward games like Marvel Heroes, where you sort of grind out a character, and then you grind out another character, and then you grind out another character. I never really enjoyed the grind of Marvel Heroes that much, like when it was easy, and never really got to the point where it was super easy for any of my characters, because I'm not someone who really gets bored with games. I played City of Heroes like for years when they weren't really doing anything. I mean, they didn't really put out their true end game content until probably their last couple of years, year and a half to 2 years, and that was when they had a lot of corporate politics going on that were essentially killing the studio. And so it's I can play a game. I can play a game for a really long time, even if it doesn't necessarily have updates, and I can grind out with different characters and stuff like that. But man, I just really couldn't get into it with Marvel Heroes. Well, I've tried with other games, mobile RPGs and stuff like that recently, and I feel like I've gotten to a point where I used to be someone who was very completionist. I want a game that tells a story, I play through it, and maybe I play through it a couple of times, and maybe I can come back to it every now and then, but it's not something that I just spend a lifetime playing. Like I've gotten to a point, I still have that completionist in me where I want to get all the achievements or whatever, as long as there aren't any speed achievements, because I'm not fast at anything. But yeah, it's I don't know. What you just described to me, like I haven't really followed what they've been doing with Marvel Heroes lately, but what you just described to me makes me want to make sure that I don't have it installed anymore, because I don't ever want to boot up the game. And I'm not trying to be overly harsh here, but I've just gotten to the point where I'm not into a grind. I'll grind out a little bit, like I've talked about not I almost said Nacho Libre, Guacamelee.
I thought you almost said Nakamura, but go ahead.
Yeah, I've talked about Guacamelee, probably every week for the past 3 or 4 weeks now, and that's a game that I want to 100%, which means I have to beat it on hard mode.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine. Like that just means I get 2 full playthroughs of the game, and the second one's a little harder, but it's not this just incessant grind where you're never really finished with the game, and there's never really any sort of end goal. There's never really congratulations, you won. Not trying to be the internet spam bot thing, but there's never really an end to it. I don't know. I don't understand games that just have to continue. I've gotten to the point where I don't understand games that have to continue in perpetuity, and there's never any sort of you've completed the game type moment. Like right. even even MMOs, World of Warcraft, City of Heroes. I mean, and of course there's newer ones.
Some of them do have a story you can complete and say at that time, "Hey, I've done it."
Yeah,
and you don't have to do end game. You don't have to grind later. Or whatever. Yeah,
right. They add more content later, and so you have to complete it. You have to move up to the next level. But there's a hard stop, and they keep you hooked by giving you more hard stops. But still, there's a hard stop where it's just like, sweet, I did it, I won. And I don't know. I don't know if it's my age or just how I was like where I started in gaming, but I'm just not into the perpetual grind fest thing anymore. And I say that now, and next week I'll be playing some grind fest game.
Yeah, you and your brother are playing some mobile ARG.
Like, yeah, I go hard in the paint on some topic, and then I'm a hypocrite the next week.
I feel you, Kalo, man. But listen, when it comes to the game, and I'm gonna this is my go home point on this game, and we'll move on to the wrestling.
I rambled.
Well, here's the thing. Like optimistically, this patch to me, it's like a cautious optimism, because this could be the patch where they had to get certain things in place so they can do other things. Like, if they brought it to a point where their 60 heroes are more or less balanced, instead of having such scattered tiers and then reworking everybody every so often, and then it getting even more scattered when people were reworked and new heroes were introduced. So they took the time to level everybody's specs and be like, hey, here's the starting point for everybody. Everybody can get the same benefits through their new Infinity system that replaced the Omega system, whether it's more critical damage and whatever. So that's good. The result of that is now it takes longer to do everything, whatever. But if they got that baseline in, then that means more content, better content, quicker content later on. Then, hey, this was a positive even through all the negative of people complaining. So everyone's poor reviews are going to turn into mostly positive reviews when everything comes through the line. Fact of the matter is, I talked to you about this before we went on the air. I had like 40 dudes in my channel yesterday watching me play Marvel Heroes at one point, and that's like not like that's like rotating in and out too. So I might have had like 70 people over the course of the couple hours I played watch me play. And the first thing I do is I bust out Kitty Pryde, my favorite hero, favorite comic book hero of all time, and like bring her into an area and start beating people up and be like, all right, well, the teleport thing, it's not that bad. People are overreacting. It feels more like a video game now, you know? And then like I do like her big move, her signature, and nothing works. Like she phases underground and she's supposed to do this AoE damage several times over. Phases underground, nothing happens. All right, well, there's a little bit of a bug. Let's go to the next one. It happened again. So I go to the training area, I do it, it works. And then I go to another terminal, is what they call it, as you remember. And like I can't even hit the signature button anymore, it's just grayed out. And now I got all these people in chat asking if they should reinstall the game, if they should come back, they haven't played in a while. Watch me play this game that's full of bugs. Just to find out that I looked it up, and people were reporting these bugs in the test center. And then they went live anyway. Well, what's the point of the test center? You know, why are you still releasing bugs after they're being notified? Why are you pushing this stuff out? And what exactly is there to do? I mean, that all lines up with the faults of the game that people have been talking about for well over a year. And, like, biggest update ever. And once you get through the, you know, smoke and mirrors of, like, these things have changed and you got to check out these powers and stuff like that. Well, it's like, well, what do I do? Well, I obviously can't play as Kitty Pryde. She's bugged. Well, I can just do this. Well, I could have done that yesterday too, but I didn't want to. So but again, optimistically, if this is the update they needed to do more stuff down the line that benefits all, then good. Might as well just get it out of the way. But if this is the what the game is, then
yeah, and I could rebut that, but I won't for the sake of time.
Well, you worked in the gaming industry, so like it's like, you know,
well, no,
when there are patterns, there are patterns.
I was just gonna say it from a general perspective. There, you've still only got so much shelf life. No matter how much you want to make a perpetual game.
Oh yeah,
there's still only so much shelf life. And
well, they only have the Marvel IP for so many years as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And there's the legal side of it, but there's also there's so many Marvel games out now, and there's so many that are way more accessible than Marvel Heroes because you can play them on your phone or your iPad or whatever.
No, they're all gone, Duke.
What?
Those are all gone. Infinity and the other one, Alliance or whatever it was.
Yeah, Future Fight's going strong though.
Is it? Okay. Well,
yeah.
Because I know Marvel stepped in and be like, hey, you know what? We're stopping making games and we're going to push it out to developers again to make games with our IP, and that's why we're getting Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or whatever again.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's called. So that's why those games are back. And that was like a benefit towards Marvel Heroes, was the fact that Marvel or Disney decided to do that. So who knows? And I also believe that
Future Fight is sort of like it's very much the mobile version of Marvel Heroes, where every time there's a new movie or something like that, there's the new character. Like when Doctor Strange came out, there were like 5 or 6 new characters that were all based on Doctor Strange, and the progression was tiered and locked, where it had to take you like a certain amount of time, or you had to spend a certain amount of money, as opposed to being able to cash in things from other characters like you can normally with other stuff. So yeah.
Well, I mean, the last thing I'll say about Marvel Heroes is, through its negatives, the one good thing about it was totally free, and
yeah, that's true.
You could earn stuff in the game. Yeah.
Well, initially it sucked in that regard, that it wasn't really like it was free.
Yeah.
But you couldn't really do anything. But then they did fix that. So.
And then just this year alone, Doctor Strange, Black Cat, Daredevil when that movie came out, when that TV show came out, Luke Cage when that TV show came out on Netflix. Like, these are all heroes you just got thrown at you for free. In addition to like the anniversary random hero for free, and the random hero for Christmas, New Year's for free. So you get a lot of stuff over time where you don't have to spend money and earn currency in the game to use as you play to buy more stuff. So it is good in that regard. But if it comes to content, once you do it all, it's still not there, and this is like 3 years later after launch,
and doing it with different colored powers. Like that was where City of Heroes was getting stale before they added their incarnate system, which was actual in-game rating and stuff like that. But doing the same thing with different colored powers or different colored tights, you start noticing it. No matter how committed and sold out you are to a game, you start realizing, oh, this is just such and such as blah. It's just pink instead of blue. So anyway, yeah.
Just like, hey, this guy is really Jack Evans, except Jack Evans is not in the WWE. Stuff like that. But
I feel like that was a perfect transition.
It was a perfect transition. But let's take a little detour here first.
Okay, detour.
Across the pond, as they say.
Okay.
Did you watch the UK tournament?
I caught a significant portion of it. I have not finished, but I know the ending.
Okay. I'm not going to ruin matches for you or anything like that.
No, it's fine.
But
you can talk about whatever you want to.
Here's the thing. Once this was released, I looked at it and I'm like, you know what? I know nobody in this tournament, and I'm a wrestling guy, and I pride myself of knowing like other countries' wrestling and big companies and champions and stuff like that. For some reason, this caught me by surprise, and I'm just like, I know none of these guys. I'm going to have no interest in this. They're running this tournament at the same time as football in the United States, the playoffs. Like, the brass ones that Vince has to pull something like that off and not do it like, a month before or a month after. But when I did go down and watch it, I didn't watch the first one live, but I watched it the same day. And we put it on. I'm like, you know what? I'm not really... Oh, it's only 2 hours? Okay, well, whatever. We'll just watch it, get it over with. And I start watching it, and then I just got engaged by the wrestlers in the first match. And then the second match, when the Finn Balor's student kicked...
Devlin.
Yeah, Devlin super kicked my dude from NXT who always loses.
Birch.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't know. I'm not going to know any of these guys' names. I didn't retain that. Fine. 5 days later, I didn't retain that. When he did the heel turn, like not the heel turn, but the heelist tactic, the super kick after the handshake, after already busting him open, after the match was called short, basically, pretty much, when the referee just decided to count to 3 and end the match, and then do the super kick after the end of the handshake when the guy's back of the head was, not gushing blood, but blood was still coming out of it.
Oh yeah, it was significant.
We're just like, whoa! We're like, that's like, it's not new that something happens, but I can't believe that happened in a tournament like this. And we're like, well, I guess we got our bad guy. I guess we got our, I guess this guy's making it to the finals. And then compare and contrast that as like the smoke and mirror for what Dunn did at the end when he attacked, the other guy he was going to fight in the next round. I'm sorry, I don't know names.
Tyler Bate?
No. When he fought his next round opponent at the end of the first show, Dunn went full on heel, attacking the guy on stage as they were signing off.
Gradwell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Blackpool guy, whatever.
The big dude.
Yeah. So he attacks him, and it's like, whoa, well, Devlin must have been a smoke and mirror because this guy's your heel. It's like your eyes were focused. You weren't waiting.
Like, oh, this is gonna be the bad guy. And there's the smark in anyone watching who's just like, oh, so this kid that got trained by
Finn Balor, he's an automatic finalist.
Yeah, he's going straight to the end. Yeah, which kudos to WWE and whoever booked that. That's like really intelligent to use smart. I mean, it was smart bait. That's what it was. It was smart.
That's the guy you were looking at on the stage. Yeah. If anything was going to happen, and then this guy came from nowhere. Like, he was already built as like the rough and tough and the heel guy.
The bruiserweight.
Yeah, the bruiserweight. But he didn't really do much in his first match to be like, all right, this guy is a total jerk. He's a jerk.
Crushed the guy's hand in the stairs, but that's not like...
Right, but that's like, any heel does that. But the other guy super kicked somebody after the match, after the handshake.
Exactly.
So it's like...
He was already bleeding out of his head.
Yeah. So you're not expecting it, and then this guy jumps him, and then, like, that's like the perfect cliffhanger.
Yeah.
The next day, I watched it as soon as it went live, instead of waiting to watch it at the end of the day or waiting until the next day to watch it. That made me want to watch it the next time it was on. And
Well,
that's not what Raw and SmackDown do.
yeah, well, all the comments I was seeing, like, I wasn't seeing it live, and I was kind of spoiling it for myself. But I was kind of like you, where I didn't know a lot of the guys. I had seen some people mention.
Yeah, it turned out I did know Mark Mandrews from TNA.
Yeah, Mandrews.
But, yeah.
And then Trent Seven. I had seen a lot of guys talk about him, and I had actually seen the little bit where people talked about Devlin, where they showed Balor training him, and they showed Becky Lynch talking about him, and I feel like there was one other person. I think I had heard of Pete. I had heard of Pete Dunne because of WCPW, because I believe he was on there. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, but I saw everyone talking at the end of the first day, and they're like, it was decent. It's not like pay-per-view quality, but it was a decent show. The environment was great, but the ending. Oh, do I hate Pete Dunne, and I love that I hate him. Like, those were the comments I was seeing over and over and over again.
On the first day you're talking about.
Yeah, on the first day. It's just like, oh my God, this guy sucks. I love it.
And he has that look to him, and I can only describe this as like you're in high school and there's just that douche in the high school who just has that like look on his face all the time. And he has that look.
He looks like to me, like ever since the first time I saw him, the first time I saw him, he kind of had an Owen Hart, like there was something like a certain angle of his face that made me think Owen Hart.
Right.
And then they started comparing him to Finlay, and I'm like, you put Finlay and Owen Hart together, it's Pete Dunne.
Yeah.
It's Pete Dunne.
And just give him the personality of like the person you hated the most in high school.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, there he is. And my God, that smoke and mirror bait and switch cliffhanger, only to find out when you watch the show the next day, the second part of it, that even more went on off the air.
Yeah.
Where
they did the whole reviewing what happened and making decisions on things and stuff like that. Really cool. And like actually getting management involved in it, as opposed to them being very separated from it like they were with the CWC.
And then he even took out Tyler Bate.
Yeah.
After Tyler Bate wins to fight him in the finals.
Right.
And it's just like, well, I mean, here's a classic. Here's a little bit of a hypocrite in me, but I think it's more in execution than it is in the template. We have a tournament, like the Cruiserweight tournament, that had heels in it. And in the Cruiserweight tournament, I was all about not having heels. I just wanted a nice competitive tournament and just wrestling showcased for wrestling. But here I didn't know any of these guys, and I knew most of them in the Cruiserweight tournament. Now I'm getting to see emotion and character, and they're letting the guys be the guys, which is good. Now we have a situation where in the finals we're selling an injury. And you know how much I hate selling injuries. Guy gets attacked, guy's shoulder is taped up, and then he overcomes odds and wins.
Right.
But at the same time, Dunne made you hate him.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, you're just like, you know what? And I gotta tell you, honestly, in my mind, I'm like, well, is this another classic example where, like, they're gonna get one over on the Smarks, and Dunne's actually gonna win, and they're gonna have this initial tournament be won by such a villain, and then Tyler Bate obviously wins in the end, and it's the good, go home happy conclusion to a tournament that I really don't have a lot of negative things to say about. It was a nice 2-day thing, man. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone I'm hearing says the first day was okay, the cliffhanger was amazing.
Yeah.
And then the second day got better and better and better, and then the whole ending was just such a surprise that it really did look like it was going to be Pete Dunne's day, and you really did have a solid underdog story, as opposed to shoehorning in an underdog story. It actually came across really, really well. And I mean, even in the picture you're using on the stream right now, he sold that shoulder to the very end. Like, he never stopped selling that shoulder. So, and
he never really embraced winning too much. It was all like shock and surprise, and And
like a true underdog winning.
Yeah, I mean, like everything worked for the tournament. And in retrospect, hindsight, Duke, I guess it's obvious this guy won. He wrestled last in every round. They talked about him the most, 19 years old, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, I really didn't know. I actually thought he might go like one round and that was it. The first match I saw, I wasn't like, this is the 8th and final match of the last round, so one of these guys is going to be in the final, whoever wins. Like, I wasn't thinking like that, but it's easy to draw that picture at the end. But here's my one question for you. We have a WWE UK champion. Okay. Now what?
You put him in the Royal Rumble.
How does this title get defended? They never explain that.
Oh no, they're going to have a show.
They are. They're going to have IPW, Insane Pro Wrestling, is going to be on the network.
Is it IPW or ICW?
It might be ICW. Insane Pro Wrestling, I think, is United States. ICW UK, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That is signed to be on the network, and they might even put Progress on the network as well. So I was expecting this title to be like, NWA territory type stuff.
And seems like it will be.
But you're saying they're having a show? Are they going to have a UK only show on the network, or is that what you were talking about? ICW.
No, I think they're going. They were supposed to have a show, but maybe they're just going to put the other places on the on the network, and then you'll see different flavors of matches as people go to the different, like you said, territories. Maybe that's how they're. I'm not sure.
Would you like to see?
They've actually put out UK only polls to see what UK people want to see from this championship in this division.
And they've done a global poll of, say,
on a broader scale, Tyler Bate, I suspect, will show up at the Royal Rumble at some point.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean, why not?
Dunne,
What better way
Pete
to
Dunne
promote it?
Pete Dunne as well, maybe.
That would be awesome if Pete Dunne just totally trashed, eliminated Tyler Bate, and then you got that continuing storyline for wherever they show up next.
Right.
Stuff like that. Here we go. Here's a little bit of a question for you, a little open-ended question, whether it's good or bad. We'll go guy or lower on this one. I don't remember. Just say how you really feel, because I don't remember what that scale is. Would you like to see the WWE UK Championship be defended like the NWA Championship back in the day, where Tyler Bate takes it to whatever associated promotions they have in the UK, whether it's Progress or ICW or whatever else, and then like maybe branch out a little bit, maybe unretire the European Championship, and then crown a European champion and have that guy go through Germany and Italy and wherever wrestling is in Europe, excluding the United Kingdom, and have specials like that, or a consistent TV show or whatever on the network? Or would you rather just see the UK Championship be defended on already existing WWE TV?
I don't think it really matters what I prefer. I would really like to see WWE get out of their comfort zone and let someone sort of move around to other places and find a way and use that person. And I know that's not really the best way to say that, but still, that person plus some trainers and an agent or two end up being scouts for these other organizations. But just to see if anyone out there is just sort of unknown, and you can bring them into the limelight. I would love to see WWE get out of their comfort zone like that. I just don't suspect they will.
Well, they kind of are
like sort of a traveling NWA style title, or have something like that. I just don't know that they will. They
kind of have that already, not the traveling title, but the out of their comfort zone thing you're talking about with Evolve and all the Evolve to Dragon Gate USA kind of stuff. The relationships are there. Yeah. It's just they're not focusing that on TV. They're grabbing, they're like kind of re-expanding territories now in the UK and the United States. Like they're selecting them through. They're being smart about it. but they're not becoming territories where they'll send their champions to work. They're becoming like breeding ground towards their developmental center and like another layer in the developmental process. And I think that's going to push NXT to a higher level. And, they're going to rely more on putting talent in Evolve and Dragon Gate USA and all those associated World Wrestling Network, WWN, I think it is, companies, and then like funnel them through the developmental center and then up to NXT when they're established. But in any event, it's still good that there is expansion, and we'll just kind of put a little bit of a dog ear on this page and be like, well, let's see what happens in a couple months' time on this one.
And one major takeaway of the UK tournament was Jesus is really over in the UK.
That was funny. And you know what was also funny? I was wondering, like, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, how come nobody's ever taken the Bailey chant and like used it towards a male wrestler? And it wasn't even a match later where they're just like, hey, Jesus. I'm like, wow.
I want to know if you'll be my God. That was pretty.
Yeah.
It was pretty ingenious.
Well, we love European crowds just because it's different. Yeah. And I wonder if we had a weekly show of that, if we wouldn't be like, oh, these guys are in business for themselves. Yeah. I hate this crowd. Exactly. Whatever. Let's move on to Monday Night Raw here. And I'll open it with you. Is there anything that stood out on Monday Night Raw for you?
The beginning and the end. I mean, the main eventers were the main eventers. I mean, and it's nice to see that Sami Zayn and Braun Strowman are considered the main eventers of the show. It's not surprising, because why wouldn't you put Braun Strowman? He's continually improving over the past year, or since he debuted.
Since the kind of stumbling idiot who was always supposed to land on his feet, who really couldn't always land on his feet in the Wyatt family, to now.
Yeah, he's just leaps and bounds, and becoming a more fleshed out character week to week, and pulling more, just doing more stuff week to week. I mean, the only thing we really haven't seen is a significantly long match, and maybe we'll see that more with and Sammy continuing to feud.
Yeah, I don't mind short matches, or like
I don't either,
protecting him, stuff like that. Yeah,
but between what's happening with him and then Sami Zayn being this just guy who just doesn't know when to quit.
Do you think that segment? You think that segment with the Shield, where I don't know if he was trying to awkwardly parody Ambrose, or if he was just acting like that guy who's like getting his chance and's like, yeah, let's over prepare, and everyone's like, just dude, chill. Like,
well, no, if you've heard interviews with anyone,
yeah, I know that's like how his real personality is.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, in terms of his character on TV, do you think that took away the beginning and the end for him, like as like a stand-up, never gonna quit guy, and then they put him in this goofball situation where you're just like, well, kind of like
no, not really. I don't like. I found it very endearing, personally. And maybe that's because I've heard these other interviews where people are like, yeah, he kind of gets under people's skin because he tries to like micromanage everything and hyperanalyze and make everything super artistic and stuff like that. But I know Meltzer, I believe, put something out that was a rib on him, or he's got heat backstage because they made him do that segment or whatever. And it's just like, well, yeah, but Meltzer is also the guy who took one line from one of the early promos between Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss, and said that the whole feud was about looks because of something that was said about Alexa winning beauty pageants, and that's not what
he does say things that are right as well.
So. He does, but I'm not saying he says everything that's wrong, but he takes tiny little things and extrapolates on them and says it like he has some sort of insight, and it's just his opinion on things a lot of times.
Well, with Sami Zayn, when I saw that segment, I'm like, well, I don't like how they're portraying him, and I certainly didn't like how like Roman Reigns and Rollins just kind of like blew him off. I'm like, this served no purpose for me to be invested in any of their characters or change my opinion in any sort of positive way. And these guys are your faces of the company. I'm supposed to want them to win. I'm supposed to want them.
I mean, that your feeling toward that though is WWE's biggest problem.
Well, that's exactly why I'm mentioning
it. They don't understand what a babyface actually is,
and that's why I'm bringing it up.
They really don't get it. Yeah,
because when you had the beginning of the show and all the big guys come out, you had the biggest of the big guys come out, with Brock Lesnar being the last one, and then Sami Zayn hits the ring as the last person in, and goes crazy and gets the final haluva kick on Braun Strowman. Like, that's elevation. That's excitement.
Yeah,
and that's everything.
And he even stared down. I mean, or he came face to face with Brock Lesnar, and it made you think, "Well, that's interesting." Like, you
never thought you'd get that combination. Yeah, you never thought you'd get that combination unless it was a Brock Lesnar squash match.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, and yeah, he just destroyed him, which is what you expect to happen in that moment. But it's one of those things where it's just like, now if Sammy can fight his way through like you start weaving the web in your mind, like it fires a bunch of synapses where it's just like, well, if Sammy can find some way to get over Strowman at some point, he doesn't have to win now, but if he can win 3 months from now, and then Strowman and Lesnar sort of get, and like I don't know, it's just like, to me the web started weaving at that point. Is just like you said, this really, really, really elevated Sammy, in my opinion. So I can see. Yeah,
then when I saw that segment, I'm like, well.
And then it sort of lets you down mentally on that. Yeah, I get that. I understand.
But here is the interesting thing about Raw.
But I like the open and close to answer your question.
Yeah. Here's what I really dislike about Raw. And when we talk about nothing ever happens, and then it's like. And in the same breath, we say, well, you don't need heel face turns or championship changes to make something happen on a show. That Sami Zayn thing is certainly something that happened, and then I felt it was invalidated later on. But looking at the results of Raw, Duke, I see 3 matches for competitors that are on 205 Live. So, and setting up feuds for 205 Live. So there were 3 matches that are essentially commercials for another wrestling program that, in a sense, if you take them out of the program of Raw, you'd never miss them. If you're watching Raw on a Saturday morning condensed show, and all 3 of them are gone, unless you were invested in the wrestler who was wrestling, and you would have missed that match and been upset about that, you didn't miss anything. You had basically, I think this was the classic Dusty finish in the tag team match, where the referee gets hit, another referee comes down, but in reverse, the heels won. And then, the title change was taken away from. How does it make sense?
Actually, that's what's called now. That's what's now called the John Cone finish, because I don't know that I've ever seen in the history of wrestling someone who is always the guy who gets knocked out and gets up and changes the outcome of a match.
It's become a meme, backstage meme.
You get knocked out, another ref comes in, he's the official now. You're done.
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's really an official rule book that says that, because it is wrestling. But
I get it.
But I agree with you. But
true.
When have you ever seen the heels win the title? Maybe this is something where I have to just kind of get over myself and be like, hey, I talk about nothing happening. Well, something happened. The heels won the tag team title, and then the referee reversed the decision to take it away. And instead of the place
by
going
disqualifying the faces, by the way.
Well, that's why the heels won. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but that's just such a mind.
Right,
melt.
But here's my thing about that. It wasn't like an Eddie Guerrero cheat, steal, win situation where Eddie got one over and the bad guy got screwed and the place goes nuts and everyone's happy because it's Eddie Guerrero. I don't know if this was done to make the place pop and really get over the fact that the club is not well liked and they're the bad guys and they got screwed, so haha, everyone's pointing and laughing. The crowd actually got pissed.
Well, the crowd popped for
the club.
Bullet Club winning.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they were like finally these guys won, like finally, because and I didn't talk about this last week. Can I bunny trail just a little bit because
Quickly.
it's related to these guys?
Yeah, quickly.
Okay, super quick. So last week, I remember people talking about, I think it was Meltzer, so now I'm going to rely on him, his opinion on something. But he talked about the what was the show with Rosenberg and Heyman and JBL?
Oh, through the table. I don't know.
Oh yeah, bring it to the table.
Bring it to the table.
That ESPN style show, not a bad show, but something Meltzer said about it, and this was kind of in unison with a lot of comments I saw about it before I actually watched it myself. And then once I watched it, I didn't necessarily have as strong of feelings as other people did about it. But one thing Meltzer said was, it's weird to see a company actively and very specifically antagonize their customers like WWE did in that show, where you had Heyman essentially saying if people aren't boycotting, then there's nothing wrong with it, and all these different things where, you know, they just sort of, like, Rosenberg was really soft on everything, and then they were as hard as they could be on him without cussing at him.
Right.
And so it was essentially it came across as WWE talking down to the voice of the fans in that scenario.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. And I watched it, and I didn't see it quite as harsh, and I felt like I got a little more nuance from it than maybe a lot of people did, which I can explain at a later date. But to that, on that same note, and I guess that was still in the back of my mind last week for Raw, when they were doing the whole in Japan thing, when Anderson was talking about in Japan. I think that was a dig at everybody who's just like, don't you see who these guys were in Japan, and you've just made them jobbers on Raw? Like, I think that was written by some smarmy writer in the back who's just like, I'm just tired of hearing about everybody say this, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to have Anderson go out there and just complain about how over they were in Japan, and how everybody needs to realize how over they were in Japan. And then Cesaro is just going to say, but what have you done here, over and over and over again? And Cesaro is going to continue to show that he is actually a bad promo, as Vince said he was.
Here's
like,
the thing
that came across that way, and then so that was my bunny trail, and then you lead to what happened this week, and it's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So,
that match made it just nobody. It made nobody look good, and here's my overall point by bringing that match up, bringing up the 205 live matches. We had another New Day versus Titus O'Neil match, which really doesn't even make any sense. And then we had two.
I feel like Titus is getting. He's becoming endearing to people in that he's so bad.
Yeah,
but I don't know that they have time.
I mean, he's reaching
really pay off.
He might reach like a Gilbert level of Job Squad level of these guys are awful, but we're gonna start pulling for him anyway.
Sure,
maybe. But and then we had two women's segments, which you know had I guess further developed the feuds for these women. But we had 0 women's matches. So Raw, like you said, the beginning and the end was good. And everything in the middle, you could have just ripped out. And you could have been like, here you go. Here's Raw in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, literally, nothing else really mattered. Like, the tag team match mattered until the reverse decision, and then it didn't matter. Like, it was just garbage at that point.
Yeah, and it didn't really, like, it was just a WTF moment. And, like, maybe, like, that match, and again, maybe I'm just being an idiot. And the fact that, like, something happened that really doesn't normally happen, where the bad guys got screwed, is actually supporting my argument of nothing happens. But when you get that fan reaction where,
maybe it was
like,
a test pop. Maybe they were testing it.
Did you do that on Monday Night Raw?
I think that's no. I think that's idiotic to do that on Monday Night Raw. You do that at a house show, but if it was a test pop, they got all the results they needed. because that crowd was hot for the club winning, and then they were pissed when they took it away from them.
And then if they have another joint pay-per-view like Royal Rumble and AJ Styles and the club cross paths in the back again, like they did when they also cross paths with Finn Balor, the crowd pops for that kind of stuff. So, I mean, kind of like short, and I'm not going to really I'm not going to overbook this. I'm just going to say it, flat out say it.
Sure.
Maybe this stuff is going to start wearing Cesaro on the fan and be like, are you not supporting me anymore because me and Sheamus are a good tag team, blah, blah, blah. And maybe I'm going to finally get my wish, and Cesaro and Sheamus are going to be on the heel side of things. And then the ultimate reunion with Rusev and Jinder Mahal.
Kind of being the tweeners leaning face that they pretty much are everywhere else.
Right, kind of like AJ. So. Like the crowd loves AJ, but AJ's still cutting heel promos. And they still boo AJ at appropriate times.
Well, it's the Bucks. It's Kenny Omega. Yeah. It's Adam Cole.
It's wrestling in general.
Well, but they're very NWO.
Right.
They're the bad guys, but they're cool.
Right.
And they're doing things that nobody else will do or can do.
But they're not supposed to be that guy in the WWE. They're an isolated tag team.
Right, exactly.
And then that's the thing. So good beginning, good ending, very flawed in the middle. You could have missed it all. You could have watched What's Happening on Antenna TV and MacGyver on MeTV, and you would have been fine. Let's switch over to the Tuesday night program, the better edition. And
shout out to Antenna TV and
I hate to say I told you so, but cage match and interference inside of a cage match where nobody can get in, nobody can get out.
That's what everybody predicted.
Of course, but I mean, it's like, well, as much credit as we give SmackDown, we also have to give it to them for being a WWE TV show. And but I tell you what, that whole Jerry the King Lawler segment,
that was interesting
because I totally forgot Dolph Ziggler was in that match until they brought it up.
I mean that it was Ziggler that did it. Well, and a lot of people always say it was a heart attack. It wasn't a heart attack. It was it was the other thing. It was essentially where your heart loses rhythm.
Aortic. I don't know.
Now it was a. I forget what it's like when Jerry was on Jericho's podcast. I guess last year sometime. He said, everybody always says heart attack, but that's not actually what happened. What happened was I lost, my heart just lost rhythm, and so it just kind of stopped. It wasn't,
right.
It wasn't. I had been eating, burgers and fries and fried chicken. It was just, my heart lost rhythm, and he said. And I'm not blaming Dolph for this or anything, but I do remember in the match that night that I had, I was taking elbows to the chest from Dolph, and I remember thinking, oh man, I remember when these didn't used to hurt so bad, because Dolph was really laying it in because he's so dramatic about everything, and so ever since then, Dolph has gotten a little heat for it, because. Even though,
so you think that is the ultimate issue of the whole Dolph is getting buried? Do you think it stems from that match? Because I gotta tell you, I've totally forgot he was in it because CM Punk really embraced it.
Since then, he's gotten some heat on it, because you hear, I've seen in interviews and other things that Jerry continues to sort of downplay that as much as possible and say people took what I said wrong. And he's not, he's hang loose Jerry Lawler about it, so it's not like he's spending a ton of time on it, but he has said several times since then. I wasn't blaming him, but then since that match, though, when Dolph was still heel, he's called his kick the Heart Stopper ever since. So, or maybe the elbows, he calls those the Heart Stopper. I don't know. So he kind of ran with it. So
yeah, I don't remember even him running with it. Like I blocked that out of my mind, I guess. But
yeah.
So that was like to me the best part of the show, other than Mickey James showing back up and there being
Well,
a new.
and now Lawler is calling the Rumble. By the way, I'm not sure if you saw that.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
So that should be interesting to see their interaction.
Yeah, and I know Lawler's wrestling, or has wrestled locally, in his area lately. He's like been a WWE employee who does outside bookings and is allowed to wrestle in places. He's wrestled many times since the heart attack. It's just none of them would have been in a WWE ring.
Right.
They've all been elsewhere.
Right.
I have to touch on this, and I don't want to go too much on it, but
Okay.
I really hope that the Randy Orton match with Harper next week, because again they had issues this week. I really hope that is a match where it gets everybody back together again, or like you said, maybe it's the definitive split with Bray Wyatt siding with Randy, and then Harper becomes like his own guy and feuds with both of them for a while.
Yeah.
As much as I want to see a united Wyatt family destroying everything, they've already killed that for me. So,
Sure.
I guess this is plan B, next best thing.
Well, and the thing that I've noticed, the story they've told so far, and of course, you got everybody who still cheers Randy as a baby face no matter what. You've got constant RKO chants every time they have these scuffles after a match or whatever. But one thing that they've stuck to so far is Randy hasn't laid a finger on Bray Wyatt. And that could just be long playing it, so you finally get the RKO and there's the big catharsis and yay, it's done, which is lame in my opinion.
Yay, we can have the feud that we had before they decided to team up.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah.
There's that I hope doesn't happen, and then there's the other side of it where Randy just finally snaps on Harper and just digs into him, and then Bray joins Randy. Like it's Bray and Randy.
It can go both ways.
Randy show.
If Bray
it can go both ways, and I would prefer
Right.
exactly what you said.
Yeah.
If they're going to have some sort of break, I would like to see Harper go on a nice little solo run.
Yeah.
And really show off what he can do.
Former Intercontinental Champion, by the way.
Yeah. And someone that that management had a lot of faith in, but he's gotten injured several times.
So here's the thing, to just piggyback your thought before we move on. If that situation happens where Orton snaps and finally gives it to Harper, if Bray sides with Orton, well, then you have your classic example of now a new person moved in somebody else's territory, and Bray and Wyatt's left on his own, and Wyatt probably becomes a sympathetic good guy as a result.
You mean Harper?
Harper, sorry.
Yeah.
If Wyatt helps Harper, then the Wyatt family becomes the sympathetic good guys and Orton's the heel. You know what I mean? You can play it that way too. Like, you've never seen a good Wyatt family.
That would have to be done really, really well, but that's going to be hard to pull off with Randy, because he is like Randy for all the heat that he got as a heel ever since he's really gone babyface and has left for a while and come back. Ever since he came back, he's been the darling of. I mean, the house show I was at, he was the hottest part of it.
Right.
I mean, seriously.
Oh, crowd loves him, but the
bigger.
crowd's gonna love him if he's a heel or a face.
Yeah, but I mean, he was bigger than Cena at the house show I went to.
Oh, was he really? Okay.
Yes. And I mean, you had the big pop for Cena when he came out, but everybody wanted an RKO all night long.
Oh well, it's your closest thing you can get to shock and awe, because you're waiting for it, and then sometimes you get it when you're not expecting it, and it's like an instant pop. It's like one of the better things. We talk about nothing happening in a show and just like shock us. An RKO is like an instant shock every single show when it happens, basically.
But I mean, they designed the entire match around the around his eventual RKO,
right?
And then it was I mean, to the point where he would tag in and he would circle the opponent and he would tag out.
Nice.
Like that's how
they were teasing it, and then he would just leave. That's awesome.
I mean, they wouldn't even let him in the match. Bray would tag him, and he would step in the ring, and Harper would tag Orton.
That's awesome.
And he would step right back out.
Yes.
So like, they just kept doing it. So it was. I mean, he was heavily the most over guy of the night, which is crazy.
So as much as I'm hating it, I am, I guess, invested in where they go in this direction. So we'll just, again, another thing.
See what happens.
Best part of wrestling, I guess, is you do that bookmark and you revisit it at a later time.
Yeah.
Let's talk NXT really quick here.
Okay.
I have something to say, and this may shock you. And by the way, next week I want to do our 2017 predictions. So I definitely want people, if you're listening to this, come up with your own, share them with us.
Wait, next week?
Next week. Well, we're going to do Royal Rumble too, but
yeah, right.
But we'll split the show, Royal Rumble and other stuff.
Okay, cool.
So I do want to do some predictions next week, in the future for 2017, and they can include Royal Rumble stuff, and that's why I want to sneak that in, because I know you've had some you've mentioned over the course of the year, and I have some as well. 2017 bold predictions, things that may never happen. You know how to do it. But I want everyone else to think about it as well, and then join us for the show live next week, next Friday at 10 p.m. That's the 27th. But here's something I'm going to retract, Duke, and this may surprise you.
Oh, okay.
Nikki Cross doesn't have it.
What?
And let me expand on this really quick.
And I really disagree with you.
Really quick. I don't think her crazy character comes off as crazy because the fans are not buying it in either direction. It was dead silent. For a crowd that marks out for everything, that was the quietest I've ever seen them be. In that match, start to finish, where like audibly like a dozen people were clapping when it was over. Not because it was over, but like you only heard a spattering of cheers when it was over. You disagree with that, really?
In that match, I get what you're saying. I think that was, I think it was bad booking to have all of Sanity come out. I get that they're Sanity, but when it's a ladies match, just have Nikki come out. You don't need the other guy. They can come out after. You don't need the full entrance because it creeps some people out, I guess, but it's also just, there's always the idea of, well, are the guys going to somehow get involved in this match?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that weakens her.
There were no reactions to any of the moves though, and
no,
I honestly
get it.
I honestly sat there and was like, oh man, I really wish this was goofy Nikki Cross right about now.
Well, and what's weird is it also plays to, so you've got Nikki Cross, you've got Billie Kay, and you've got Peyton Royce, right? And they're going to be in the four-way with Asuka for the championship, which I'll get to that in a second if we have time.
We don't have time. We can talk about that next week in the preview. But
okay,
go ahead.
We totally will. But anyway, so you've got these other two ladies that are involved, plus Asuka, but just the other two ladies, you're not going to have a run-in because you got the two guys on the outside. So
okay, that's a fair point, but
I suspect that people are like, what are we supposed to think about this match, because nothing significant's going to happen.
But do they think the same thing in Strong versus Cutler too?
Really be what? Sorry.
You can think the same thing in Strong versus Cutler and whatever other matches, TM61 versus Revival, when it comes to run-ins or people on the outside.
And the crowd was in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Well,
that's all I'm saying is I've never seen
when it was filmed and stuff too.
That was
Who knows?
That was
There's
the ultimate low of crowd participation in a match I've ever seen for somebody I love so much, and it got me thinking like maybe. But
yeah,
and they also worked in the TM61 injury angle in the Revival. I wonder if they cut that promo post production.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, to set up the Revival saying they're going to injure him.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he like legit got injured in some way.
Oh, he did, because I told you he's out for 4 months.
Yeah, we know that. That's right. That's right.
So that's why I'm saying maybe they cut that promo afterwards.
Well, and he was barely in the ring too, so I almost wonder if maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was actually injured, and I don't know. That's
no. He got hurt. I mean, it's legitimate. He got hurt in the match.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere.
All right, got it.
That's what that was legitimately, and that's
At some point he got hurt.
Yeah.
Got it.
yeah. So that was that.
Yeah,
and,
I'm sure that promo was an after.
Yeah.
Was to set it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good on them, and another decent episode of NXT TV. And next week we have the go home shows for all the brands, and we'll talk about that. All the brands, even 205 Live, because I think the Neville Rich Swann match is going to be on Royal Rumble.
Really excited for that.
Yeah, Neville is the only reason right now to watch the cruiserweights, because everything else doesn't matter when it comes to that. But Gallagher got over on Daivari on 205 Live, and Nisa Gulak were finally able to win. Cedric Alexander has a losing streak, but there's a storyline attached to it as well. So, I mean,
everything matters with what's going on with 205 Live. That's what's cool.
Really quick. If
it's weird, it matters. Sorry.
Even it's weird. And I gotta show the Gallagher picture for a couple seconds, so I gotta ask you a bonus question.
Okay.
We're gonna do the Royal Rumble. We're gonna do the NXT Takeover stuff next week. We might even expand the show, start a half an hour early, just so we can get it all in. We'll discuss that. But here's my question for you. In lieu of that, give me like 2 names in the Royal Rumble that are gonna shock people when they come out through the curtain. You already gave me 2 for the UK guys, but give me 2 different ones.
Yeah, I did.
Give me 2 different ones.
Oh man, now you're. I'm totally going to, because I haven't thought about that part of it that much, because there's so much with the actual roster that can happen. So I'm totally going to pick someone based on a video I watched today, and I'm going to say Kevin Nash.
Okay.
He will. You'll have a chance for Goldberg to get over on Kevin Nash. I heard someone book that, and I'm like, that's actually pretty brilliant to have the guy who healed out to beat the streak be the guy who gets beat up by Goldberg in the Royal Rumble after a surprise entrance. That would be kind of cool. And then because all the old people will mark for that. I mean, just heavy. Because just like, yeah, finally he gets his comeuppance after 15 years.
And number 2?
Yeah, sorry. Jeez. All right, I'm just gonna say it. Hulk Hogan.
I think both of those are solid answers because they support what I'm gonna say. With the inclusion of Undertaker, Goldberg, and Brock Lesnar in this Royal Rumble, I think it's really all hands on deck. Any former wrestler that can still work, any former champion, world champion that can still work is good. Not Jack Swagger, but real, like back in the day, Attitude Era and pre.
I gotcha.
Anybody who can really work is going to be in this match. Any big names that still can go are going to be in this match. So your 2 guesses of Nash and Hogan would support my thing. Not that they can both really work, but come in and get thrown over the rope and casually fall to the ground or get pulled off the apron, things like that could happen. I mean, and this goes hand in hand with the Hall of Fame, but Kurt Angle is certainly a guy that I think is coming through. People
will go nuts for it.
When the music hits, absolutely. I did like the Royal Rumble chant for Ty Dillinger on NXT. But then when
him actually acknowledging it too, instead of just glossing over it.
But then when they actually set him up for a match for a takeover, like my thing got my heart dropped a little bit because I wanted you to be right, and we'll talk about that next week. But
sure.
And here's number 2.
Okay.
The Lethal Weapon, Steve Blackman.
There you go. You even made it organic. That's fantastic.
And it's all about bringing back the biggest names in wrestling history for this biggest Royal Rumble ever. First time ever a Royal Rumble in San Antonio on pay-per-view.
What's our bonus question?
I have a bonus question?
You said something about Jack Gallagher in a bonus question. Or was the bonus question the Rumble stuff?
Yeah, the bonus question was the Rumble stuff, yeah.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you. I'm the Duke. He's the Larry. Bye-bye.